Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to the Wyoming Women's Business Center's 2020 webinar series. Today's presentation is How to Tackle Distractions and Stay Focused. I'm Christine Langley with the Wyoming Women's Business Center, and I'm going to be your speaker today. You'll notice the GoToWebinar control panel on the right side of your screen. And I want to call attention to both the questions panel, but really primarily the chat panel, and it should be at the very bottom. We're going to be using that chat panel today to communicate during the presentation. And my colleague Teresa is on the line today, and she's going to help me with that. So if you look down in that chat box right now, you'll see a quick message from her. And I want you to go ahead and respond back with a quick hello or whatever you want to say, maybe where you're calling in from today. Just so that you can see how that feature works, because it's going to come in handy in a few minutes. Okay, so this webinar is being recorded and it's going to be available on our YouTube channel, as all our webinars are. And all you need to do is go to youtube.com and type in Wyoming Women's Business Center. Make sure you subscribe, check out our other webinars. You can always visit us at our website at wyomingwomen.org or look for us on Facebook and Instagram. So immediately following this presentation, I'm going to launch a survey. We always ask you to complete the survey because it provides us, as well as our funding partners, with valuable information. Now, everybody's muted to minimize background noise on this call. So once again, if you have any questions or comments during the presentation, just use that chat box to communicate with Teresa. All right, guys, we're just going to get started with some quick information today about the Wyoming Women's Business Center for any of you that aren't familiar with us and this is your first time attending one of our webinars. And then we're going to dive right into our topic and finish up with a little Q&A at the end. So the WWBC is a nonprofit organization, and our mission is to enable and empower Wyoming entrepreneurs. We have a special emphasis on women who are economically or socially disadvantaged. And we do that through 3 distinct programs. So the first is our business counseling and training program, which is always free. The second is our microfinance programs, and we offer both microloans and individual development accounts. And then the third is an artist development center, and we run that in conjunction with our Works of Wyoming store and an Art Connect gallery in downtown Laramie. Now, this particular webinar today is brought to you by our microfinance program. And so I just want to call special attention to the microloan program, because we can provide loans for those unable to get loans through traditional means for up to $50,000. And so if you'd like more information about that, you can contact the director, Waldo Smith. All right, guys, this is me. I'm a business counselor with the WWBC, and I've been working directly with Wyoming entrepreneurs for over 10 years. I'm a business owner and a real estate investor myself, and I've been helping clients launch and improve and expand their businesses for a long time. And I'm also a professionally trained life and executive coach. So I think most people would agree that over the last 20 years, connectivity has become sort of the defining characteristic of our society. And it's easy to connect now with all different sources of information, and we can access the internet from almost anywhere. We can make phone calls or send messages all around the globe. And it's really that connectivity that helps us lose focus and get distracted so often. So if you read the language about this webinar when you registered, you already know that a typical American worker is distracted every 11 minutes. And it takes 25 minutes to actually settle down again to get back to your task. So the more complicated your project, the longer it takes to regain your focus, because your brain has to put in all this effort when switching between complex objectives. So today, we're going to try to identify the distractions that are around us and learn about ways that you can stop being pulled over by those distractions and try to keep you to focus or stay focused instead of distracted. Okay, so let's start by talking about the 2 types of distractions. There's internal distractions and there's external distractions. Now, most people like to blame the external distractions when they can't focus, because of course it's always easier to point a finger. Unfortunately, what the research shows is that more than 80% of the time, the truth is we actually distract ourselves. So the internal distractions is the distractions you have inside your brain. And it refers to mental blocks that hold you back from staying focused. Okay, so what are these blocks? Well, primarily the blocks relate to being able to choose. And so the most common distraction that we encounter is that we just have too many options. And so a lot of people find it hard to focus, especially at home, because you have so many options to choose from, right? You can feed your dog, you can finish some laundry, you can watch TV, you can cook some food. You've got all these other options other than finishing tasks for work. And so what your brain does is it prioritizes those tasks based on your existing need and satisfaction, meaning that you actually prioritize based on your short-term benefit or satisfaction instead of your long-term benefit. Okay, so now let's switch to external distractions. So these are the distractions pushed to you externally. The most common examples of this are like email or message notifications, that dreaded ding that you get from one of your devices. Other examples are people just coming in and interrupting you in the middle of a task. So I'm sure you can think of lots of external distractions that you've been experiencing recently. I always say, especially the ones that are less than 4 feet tall. Okay, so now that we know what distracts us, now it's time to figure out how to actually tackle those distractions. So we know that 80% of the time, it's actually the internal distractions that get us. So what I want you to do right now is just try to narrow down and eliminate options available to you that distract you in the first place. So this is a really short exercise, and I want you to try and do this right now. If you want to use that chat box and kind of communicate with the other people on the call just to sort of get ideas flowing, you're welcome to do that. I want you to think about the options that are around you right now that distract you, and think about how you can eliminate those, right? So have you been distracted by anything since you started listening to this webinar? And if so, what was it that distracted you, right? Was it an internal or an external distraction? Can you identify it or list it? Tell me what it was. So again, try using that chat box. Now, if you have an idea of the things around you that are giving you an option to lose focus, then take that next step and come up with like a concrete action that you can take to eliminate it. So in my example, I identified, my mobile phone, maybe chips for snacking, a remote control for TV, and I've got some ways that I've come up with to eliminate it. It may seem basic, but if you'll just look around your desk right now, I'm sure you'll find some things that pull your attention away. All right, the next step is to create mental stop signs. And so in our highly connected world, lots of things serve you 24/7, and they give you endless information and resources. So take YouTube, for example. It's always recommending the next video you should watch. And so if you don't stop yourself before playing the next video, you're going to be watching all day. So to regain your focus, we really need to create some mental stop signs. And so a typical stop sign is a time limit, right? We do this a lot with our children. So this may be one you already use. You set a timer, some kind of a limit for whatever you're working on, and then when the alarm goes off, you stop yourself. The second type of stop sign is a progress limit. And so this is when you can set a time limit on the progress of what you're doing. So for instance, say you start watching YouTube, you ask yourself to stop after finishing 2 videos. It's not necessarily a timer, but it's the progress that you make. Okay, so can you think of some stop signs for your common distractions? And so again, if you want to share any of this in the chat box, go right ahead. I've given you some examples to kind of get you started. And we want to see if you can come up with distractions and then some stop signs. All right, step number 3 is really to try and control your focus environment. So it's human nature to be triggered by any of your 5 senses. And this can happen constantly, right? So your 5 senses are sound, touch, sight, smell, taste. So when you think about sounds, maybe it's chit chat that's happening in the background, or pets that you have, or neighbors' pets, right? White noise or music. My big one is my husband talking on the phone in the background, because for whatever reason, I feel like I need to listen to that conversation while I'm also trying to do whatever task at hand. And so that's hard for me. Touch or sound, sight, smell, and taste. So these are just other examples. You know, is your chair comfortable? Is your screen, you know, on the right setting? Is there a wall hanging that distracts you, or you find yourself kind of losing focus because you're staring at a piece of artwork? Maybe a scent of coffee, or you've got some kind of aftertaste going on, you know, in your mouth that you need to get rid of, and you lose focus because of that. So there's just all kinds of things that happen from your senses. So if you want to stay focused, then try to pick a place to work where your attention isn't going to be triggered by any of these five senses so easily. And it can be helpful to identify what distracts you most in terms of those five senses. And so, of course, what distracts me most right now is my phone ringing, which I failed to put on silent. So try and list some of these distractions in the chat box. And then I want you to take it one step further and try to brainstorm places where you find the least number of these triggers. So what all this really comes down to is taking control of your time. And so if your unproductive days are starting to win over your productive ones, then it's time to figure out your distractions and where they originate and put a stop to them. So no matter what your distractions are, you're really in control of your time and what you do with it and where you spend it. And you never want to give away that control to someone else. So I want to leave you today with just some quick tips. I've got 5 quick tips to boost your concentration. And I found some beautiful images that I put up on the screen just now. And this information was actually taken from an article written in the medical news today. And so tip number 1 is get regular green time. So a dose of nature could be just what the doctor ordered when trying to improve your attention span and ability to concentrate. And enriching a bare office with plants increase the productivity of workers by 15%. So that presence of greenery increased workplace satisfaction, perceived air quality, and reported levels of concentration. So for all you supervisors out there, maybe send your employees a plant. That would be nice. Okay, tip number 2, take a break. So evidence suggests that taking a break can really enhance your ability to concentrate. And taking breaks earlier in the day and doing preferred activities lead to better health, job satisfaction, and revival of energy, motivation, as well as concentration. So they found that workers also experienced fewer headaches, eye strain, and lower back pain after their break. But of course, don't forget to set your alarm, because the woman in this picture looks a little too comfortable. All right. Tip number 3, it might be time for you to rethink your environment. So we know that our environment plays a significant role in how well we're able to concentrate. And it's known that by decluttering your home or tidying up your desk or your own workspace gives you kind of more order and ability to think more clearly. Other people have found that like listening to classical music or natural sounds can help. And then also research suggests that exposure to rosemary aroma may improve speed and accuracy of cognitive performance. So that's another great gift idea for employees. All right, tip number 4 is try brain training. So problem-solving exercises, brain training methods, or even video games, they could have a positive effect. They could also have a negative effect or no effect at all on concentration. It really depends on which study you read. So my method is go ahead and try it and see if it works for you. Who knows? And then last but not least is tip number 5, which is enhance your well-being. So physical activity, dietary choices, your weight, you know, all of these things are factors that can contribute to how well you function and your concentration levels. And so looking after your well-being, staying active, and eating a concentration boosting food that can help toward improving your concentration. And so research has found that walnuts and avocados and chocolate, or I should say specifically cocoa bean, have all shown improved performance on tests for cognitive function. And so we all know that research has revealed exercise can also improve performance on cognitive tasks. And specifically, yoga has been found to show that you can significantly improve your energy levels as well as your brain function. All right, guys, we did a purposeful shortened format today for those of you that were logging in just for a quick webinar. And I've left some time for questions in case anybody has some specific questions that they want to ask me about handling distractions in their work setting or during this COVID-19 crisis that we're all facing, and most of us are working from home. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to either use the chat box or ask some questions. And you can let me know, Teresa, if anything pops up while I go through just a little bit of our sponsorship and funder information. So the Wyoming Women's Business Center is made possible through several partnership agencies, and our primary funding comes from the United States Small Business Administration Office, which we call the SBA, as well as the Wyoming Business Council. And so, of course, we're thankful for their support and their guidance of all of our partners, and we look forward to the work ahead with them. This is contact information for myself and also my colleagues. And so if you guys want to reach out to us directly, feel free to call or email us. And of course, our contact information is on our website as well. And then lastly, I just want to call your attention to our next webinar, which we're hosting on Thursday, May 21st. Same time, but it'll be a little bit of a longer one, 12 to 1. And the title is Pivoting Your Business in Response to COVID-19. And so we're really going to be taking you through the educational process of how to think about pivoting your business if that's something that you feel like you need to do during this time. All right, Teresa, how are we doing on the questions?
We have just a few. One participant said that sound is the greatest distraction in their world. Do you have any tips for how to deal with sound distractions?
So I think the first question is to try to narrow down what is, where are all the different sounds coming from, right? So right now, and what are the sounds that you can eliminate and what are the sounds that you can't eliminate? And so sometimes you may have to just completely change the environmental setting. You may have to go somewhere else, or where your desk is just simply isn't going to work. It's too close to the kitchen, or every time, a group of people in your household come running down your stairs, it's just too big of a distraction for you. And so even though technically your house is laid out a particular way and this is where your office is supposed to be, for right now, maybe that's just not going to work. And you need to set up in your bedroom or do something, creative or different. And so I would just try to list out what all those different sounds are and identify whether you can do something about it or not. Anything else?
We have another question about keeping an open door policy with staff, but also being able to close the door so you can focus and get through tasks without a lot of interruptions. How do you balance that?
Yeah, great question. I used to work in an office setting, and my office was across from the bathrooms in that particular building. So I had this open door policy, but I used to joke with people that, I would see my clients and my colleagues twice a day, no matter what, because I was across from the bathrooms. And it took a lot of mental gymnastics in order to, stay focused and not look up every time someone came in and out of the bathroom. So, there's different distractions that we have to deal with based on the location, of our office. But when it comes to having an open door policy, and then choosing to close the door, what I always like to do is communicate with some kind of a note or a sign. So I want to have an open door policy and allow my employees to have access to me the vast majority of the time. But when that's just not possible and I have to bang out some kind of an assignment, then I'll stick a little note on my door just saying, hey, everybody, I need 2 hours. I'm going to be available after 2 o'clock today. And then the other thing I try to do is verbally communicate that with people, because, just depending on how people take notes or messages, that can come across a little edgy or a little rude. So it doesn't hurt to just give people a little verbal warning. Just do a quick walk around your space and say, hey, everybody, I really got to get this report done. And so I'm gonna focus and bear down on this thing. And I need 2 hours, without interruptions. And so I'm gonna put my little sign up that everybody knows that I have, and I'm gonna go barricade myself in my office, and then my drawer is gonna be open after that. So most of the time, it just really comes down to communicating with people and letting them know that you need that time, and then you'll get less distractions.
Okay, another participant says she and her husband both have small businesses. How do you balance the multiple unplanned distractions and helping each other with small businesses together?
Yeah, so I'm in that same bucket, where I have a small business, and so does my husband. And one of the tricks that we use, again, the phone calls can be really distracting, because I feel like if he's on a business call that he's going to tell me about later, then wouldn't it be faster if I just listened right now while I'm trying to do something else, right? And then he doesn't have to repeat it. But clearly that's not efficient, for me to get my work done. And so what we do is we actually set up times either throughout the day or throughout the week, depending on how much communication is really going to be necessary for our businesses. We set up meeting times. So we'll take a break in order to communicate with each other specifically about business. And we actually schedule it on our calendar so that it's a business meeting. And we even have sort of a standard agenda that we use. So because it's so easy when you're dealing with a spouse to wander off into these rabbit trails of sort of other topics and other conversations. And so it makes the discussion way more longer than it needs to be. And it impacts both of your productivity, because you start talking about where you're going this weekend and what happened when you talked to mom last night, and it gets really cloudy. So we have just a little standard agenda that we use in order to download information to each other about each other's business. Now, there's other times when one of you might need some help, or one of you might need some assistance. So for whatever reason in my household, I am IT support for my husband and all of his devices. Not a role that I necessarily signed up for, but for whatever reason, that has become my reality. And so if something is going on with his email, then he wants to come and distract me or interrupt me and, ask me to fix that for him. And so again, this is an opportunity to create kind of a stop sign and a boundary. And so we've had that adult conversation to say, look, I know this is frustrating, but it's going to have to wait, until this break time or until this scheduled meeting time. And then I'll get it on my calendar to take 30 minutes, in the morning and fix whatever your computer issue is. But we got to have some kind of boundary around our time.
Yeah, I think that's all the questions that came through.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us today. And I hope you enjoyed this shortened format. We're going to be trying to do this at the beginning of the month. So we're pushing out webinars every 2 weeks. And so the initial webinar of the month will be a 30-minute format. And then at the latter end of the month, like the next one on May 21st, that'll be our longer format, which will be 1 hour. And so look for emails for upcoming advertisements on future webinars. And of course, you can always find the information on our website at wyomingwomen.org. So as I close this out today, I'd really appreciate it if you would complete the survey. It helps me and it helps our partners to know if we're hitting the mark with these topics and with our trainings. Have a great weekend, everybody, and stay safe out there. Bye-bye.